session is starting now. I'm super excited. Look at this all-female tech panel. Like, it makes my heart happy. I'm so excited to have this conversation. So first, I want to give our participants a little background on all of these fierce women in technology. So I'm going to start in the order that I see you, and please introduce yourself to the audience. So Alessandra, let's start with you.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Alessandra. I'm a senior product manager at GorillaWorks. So we build really interesting, really fun recruitment technology, and we really integrate a lot of AI into that technology as well. So I'm really excited to join this panel and talk about how that technology can be used throughout sort of the entire life cycle of recruitment to supercharge your agency.
Amazing. Amazing. Leanne. Our Aussie.
Yeah, hi, Aussie, yeah. Hi, I'm Leanne. I manage all of the tech stack at Procom. So that includes our recruiting tools, middle office, and sales enablement. And we have AI peppered all the way out through our tool stack. So I'm super excited to talk about how you can really optimize your operations with AI. And I'm originally from Australia, but I'm based in Canada. So that's why I pronounce things a bit funny, which LJ loves to
my favorite.
remind me.
Like banana, which I'm wearing the color
banana. Yeah, I got that. Homage.
I love it. Homage to banana.
So that's it. I'll probably let go of have a think throughout this panel. Yeah.
Miss Pittman, welcome.
Well, hello. Hi.
Hello.
I'm Erin. I'm the operations director at Leap Consulting Solutions, right alongside Ms. Jones. And we work with our customers to help solve problems and figure out what kinds of AI solutions are going to be right for them, figure out how to and when to implement certain technology. So I'm really excited. I feel like this is such a fun panel to be a part of, because we've got folks who are working directly in technology from a product perspective, folks that are implementing it, and folks that are trying to help people take the technology and then implement it with their customers. So I'm excited. I feel like it's a fun crew.
Why do you think I put this little mixture of people together, right? I'm thinking. So let me share with you, since I'm the data nerd, and I think any keynote or whatever I've ever given, I'm always really data driven, because I think it really helps set the tone for, whatever it is that we're talking about. And I've been on a couple panels today, but oddly enough, they have been about sales. And what inevitably has been coming up is AI. And somebody put in the comments, they're like, AI has been so pervasive today. And it's because it's not going to go away, right? We've got a taste of it. So let me give you some stats on this. In November of 2023 alone, there were 10,000 AI tools marketed and created. 10,000 in 1 month. So we've got 73% of US companies that have already adopted some form of AI in 2023. 44% are making serious investments in 2023. And then 70% of executives expect further investments in as AI continues, to develop. So it is pervasive. It's going to be in every little nuance of what it is that we do. And so I think that it begs asking some questions. I often say, with great power comes great responsibility. So this panel is here today to help inform and help you understand where natural resistance might come in. And that's the question we're going to start with, is because we do a lot of adoption and training in AI at Leap Consulting Solutions. And so I want to ask this group in particular, why do you think there is resistance? Because as much investment as is going on today, there is equal amounts of resistance coming from the desk level, the sales level, management levels. We've always done it this way kind of mentality. So I'm going to put it out to the group. Why do you think there's such resistance?
It's a good question. I think a lot of resistance comes from just like a fear of what it is, especially I think in a lot of our worlds, our jobs, there's a fear that if I use this and if it's so good at doing my tasks, perhaps it could replace me. So sort of not using it, not showing what it can do, sort of could be, you know, part of the reason that people are reluctant to integrate it into their day-to-day. So I think that's like a big part, because when AI, you know, this past year really like boomed onto the scene, there's all these articles about, you know, will AI replace your job? Is AI going to get rid of jobs? And it was this, you know, a lot of like fear around that.
Yeah. I felt like there was a ton of bias in the articles that you were reading, because they were fear mongering on, you know, AI is going to take 85,000 jobs, but they didn't tell the rest of the story. It will create 95,000 jobs, right? The number one job, one of the number one jobs that we're seeing right now is prompt engineer. So, you know, this idea that, you know, AI is this just impending doom. Why we like to Chicken Little, I'll never know. But why there appears to be this impending doom about AI. Fear is false emotion appearing real. So stick that in your noodle and keep it.
Yeah. I think as well, with any like big innovation, if we think about when the iPhone came out, the possibilities seem endless. And whenever it's that, it obviously evokes fear, because you're like, well, where does this stop? Like it can generate images, it can generate text, it can generate music, it can generate videos. So, but what then you realize, if you change the conversation, like, wow, the possibilities are really endless, then it becomes really interesting to start playing with it, rather than being fearful of what it could do, you know?
Yes.
And I think it could be really overwhelming too, especially if your responsibility at the company that you work for is to advocate for technology, something that's brand new. You have to really work hard to make sure that you're working with vendors to find out, like, what kind of an ROI can I turn around for this? Like, you need to be able to have data and information and like a real perspective on it. And it's new. So it's really overwhelming. The last thing you want to do is promote some new technology, then it ends up not working or there being a problem with it. So I think it's something where there's a lot of education to be had. And I think folks understandably are a little overwhelmed.
Well, that is a perfect segue to our next question. Thank you so much, Erin, for the nice tee up. But where does an agency begin? Because I think that's where, you know, I said this earlier, like I prepared this beautiful keynote in 2023, like maximizing your technology investment. I was so excited. I got to give that keynote once, because everything else was about AI. I was only hired to talk about AI, which is fine. I'm obsessed with it. Like, it's great. But it's where I see a lot of that fear is where to start, right? With endless possibilities, there are going to be bad actors. And so how do we inform? Right? How do we help? How does an agency begin to educate their end users and their company?
Well,
yeah, Go ahead, Alessandra.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think, you know, one thing is explaining to your team, to your people, that AI is not there to replace people. And because I think that really sort of helps people get over that initial fear of, you know, what is this? Is it here to take over my job? Is it here to automate everything that I'm doing? And so the first step is really to explain to them that these are tools to help, you know, take away some of the sort of more mundane day-to-day stuff, and to really help you focus on where you can add the most value. And so we can take away some of the stuff that AI can maybe automate, to let you focus on what you're really hired to do, and what your you know, where your value lies. So I think helping people just overcome that initial fear is probably the first step into getting them sort of on board.
First step is admitting it. Right?
Yeah.
Right? We're going to verify our agencies, right? But you're 100% right. So there's some homework to be done before we do this. And you know, and Erin does this a lot. You know, we're coming in and we're determining where are those inefficiencies within the organization. So that's where you start. Where are those hidden factories, hidden inefficient places within your organization? Hidden dissatisfaction or disruption with your end users, you know, when they're like, I'm just bogged down doing this X administrative task, right? So listening to your people and taking inventory. Go ahead, Erin.
That's funny that you said that. I was just thinking, tap into your resources that you have. Like, people are, because the way that AI has kind of like come upon us, it isn't just at work. It's also people are reading about it in like their regular day-to-day life and probably playing around with ChatGPT, or they're playing around with like different tools or Bard. And seeing, like, the first time I used it, I was writing a story for my my 7-year-old about her being a superhero. Like, that had nothing to do with work, but that was the first opportunity I had to engage with it. And so maybe tap into your network, create a channel, like a Slack channel, or a Teams channel for folks that are already using it, and kind of like find out who your the people who are going to be the most excited about it, because they're going to end up turning around to be the people who are the happiest to advocate for that change when you do implement a tool.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm also a big believer in starting small. You don't have to put AI everywhere just because it's the biggest rage. Maybe it's to write an email. Maybe it's to do a submission. You don't have to put it in every single part of your process. Start small, see what works, and then you'll start having ideas of like, maybe I can include it in this part of the process, or maybe I could do it here, or maybe I could have AI do my pre-screens for me. You can really build up. But sometimes it's a little overwhelming where you're like, oh, AI's here, I have to put it everywhere. But just start small.
Yeah. How do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time.
Right. Exactly.
Right? And when you think about those inefficiencies, think about the time that it takes. So I'll throw some numbers at you because, I love those so much. But we have been able to save new recruiters upwards of 90 minutes to 2 hours per day. So new recruiters are a little more challenged in putting together submittals, right? They're just not used to doing that, taking the resume, taking the interview, taking the references, and putting that all together and making something that is, sort of sellable in whatever company format you have. So there's a, compounding requirement on top of that, and then putting that in front of the customer. It's wildly time consuming. And even your more senior recruiters are putting an exorbitant amount of time in those submittals. That's a perfect opportunity to say, oh my goodness, I could write submittals with this, job descriptions. I say that I give these 3 stats all the time, and I'm not going to stop giving them until we change it. And that is 98% of jobs are written with masculine bias. You can work against that bias by having AI write a description without bias, right? Because women will only apply to a job if they meet 100% of the requirements. So if 98% of them are written with masculine bias, what are the chances a woman is applying, right? 56% are beyond the prescribed length. The average job posting in our industry is 6.5 years old. So we love throwing up old garbage out into the world. So there are fundamental things that we can change with simple things like that. So start with, the end in mind, but start with some of, like Leanne said, start small, eat the elephant one bite at a time. Look for those hidden factories, the hidden inefficiency factories, hidden administrative factories within your organization. And that's where you begin. So fears are validated, right? In that there are bad actors out there. So let's talk a little bit openly about some of the threats that are out there, because primarily the legislation that's being moved is about transparency. That is being submitted today is about transparency. Like, there's a new Taylor Swift deep fake out there and totally not safe for work, right? Yeah. There's a lot, and we see our president talking and it's not really him talking. There's a new AI tool that I'm obsessed with. It's human.ai, and it can take a replicated, my voice, you and I talked about this, Alessandra, my voice, and use it over and over again. So I'll start with you, Alessandra, and talk about some of the threats that are there, because they are real and we have to be aware of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, AI is built by people, right? And people have inherent biases. And a lot of this AI is tested, specifically on a specific demographic of people. And that demographic typically looks like the type of person that may have built it. So they're just inherent biases that are presented in, like, that are built into the AI. So I think just knowing that as you're using it is really important. And as you're designing your prompts for the AI, to keep all of that in mind. What we do at Gorilla Works is sort of a number of things to combat that. And we've had lots of conversations about how can we make sure that we're not introducing bias in a way that the user thinks it's not there, right? Because sometimes you use AI and you're like, great, now it's not biased because I used AI and I didn't write it up myself. So I think just educating and understanding that just because it's AI doesn't mean that it's like infallible and that it's without bias, and it's us that are putting the prompts. And so as you're writing your prompts, it's important to realize, how you're formatting those and what the language that you're using is. And I always like to tell people, I love AI. It's great. I love talking about it. But it gets you kind of 95% of the way there in whatever it is you're using it for. But you always have to look at it and make it your own, because just letting AI do it for you it's not the solution to all of this bias. It's not the solution to all of this, these issues that could pop up with, a person writing a job description. You still need to really look at that and make sure that it's not introducing anything that you don't want, and it's not mischaracterizing certain things that you may have put in the prompt.
Love that.
I think it's important to understand also, what is it actually doing? Like, what is this particular brand of AI or this particular technology behind the scenes actually doing? This example, one of my coworkers at Staffing Engine was explaining why recently like ChatGPT was coming up with incorrect math answers, and they were talking about, well, it can't do math. It doesn't know how to add. It doesn't know how to do any kind of calculation. It's just literally looking for like the most likely relevant response. So if somebody were to put in 2 + 2 =, you might get 5 because there's absolutely a colloquialism being like, oh, what? And you're going to tell me 2 + 2 = 5? Well, that shows up all over the internet. And when when the tool's been trained using that data, it could unintentionally be giving you incorrect data. So just understanding what it's actually doing can make it so much more powerful, because then you're not going to be running around, misstating facts, maybe that are more important and more complicated than 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah, Leon.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think as well, sometimes the misconception is AI, automation, any of these big words that we hear thrown around are going to like solve all of our problems. Usually it's a complement to what we're trying to do. So AI, I think, works best when you have a human. You have to have a human intervene, whether it's at the beginning or in the middle. I know that Glide, for example, I just looked at Glide recently, and
so awesome, right?
One of the things I said was I think I'm worried that my recruiters are going to think, oh gosh, this is replacing me. But when I spoke to Rod, it was a really good conversation where it's like, well, it's actually just helping them. Like what Alessandra said, it's getting them 95% of the way, and then they can take what they have and then move to the next step. Same with our AI tools that we have at Procom. It really just helps you get almost all the way, but a human needs to make that like star quality that AI will give you,
Yeah, it's going to equip you with the tools. I look at it this way. I never, ever have to look at a blank page again, right? I think for me, as a creative, right, I don't know how long I've stared at a blank page before, starting a tough email, starting an article. Yeah, oh my God. And you're like, or you type over and over again, and then, back. And it's just, you never have to stare at a blank page. You can start exercising your brain, and I like Claude because it's better with creative stuff, for Jasper for marketing stuff, and you get to experiment a little bit. And I would say the final threat is not empowering your people. So taking that fear as an agency and saying you can't use it at all, or putting walls up, or big brothers up. You've got to educate and inform as to how your agency is going to leverage it responsibly. And that will take deliberate effort, and it will take work. There is no easy button for empowering your people properly. That's
but let them try.
Let them
I think
try.
that's where it's key.
Yes.
Like let them. A lot of the times people will come out and be like, oh, I don't like this, I'm scared of this, or it's going to do that. But let them give it a go and then see.
Yeah. So let's talk about the opposite side of this. The part that I'm obsessed with is like the endless possibilities. Like, I mean, when I think about language just in general, and you look at something like Synthesia, where it can take my one story, my one pitch, and translate it into 126 languages with an avatar of my choosing. I mean, that blows my mind. And so, I think, like, you want to talk connection. We're in this human industry that requires connection. please tell the story of the translation in one of your videos. It was fantastic, but I used for the good. Let's talk about some of the exciting possibilities. I'll start with you, Leanne, because this was amazing.
Yeah, so being a Canadian-based agency, but we also have a presence in the US, we have to solve for a couple of different realities, and one of those is our employees in Quebec. And so our CEO doesn't speak French, and so we have to get a little bit creative about how we can communicate in the preferred language of our consultants and employees. And so what AI can do is actually make our CEO speak French. So his mouth was moving in exactly the same way as
incredible.
Of how you would pronounce things in French. He sounded really French. And some of the feedback we got was, I didn't know our CEO spoke French so well. But that's amazing. Like, we didn't have that capacity before. You would have the subtitles down the bottom, but now we can not only dub the message, but actually make it look real. And for translation purposes as well, it's really been a game changer for us. When we've had to translate something from English to French, we use AI. And that really allows us to get things done efficiently and quickly, and make like our consultants and employees feel really included.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really a use case where it's been so great to have AI.
Yeah.
When you talk DE&I, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Inclusion.
Exactly.
People want to connect and they want to be included. This is removing the great divide of language. It's so exciting. Go ahead, Alice.
And it empowers people across the organization to collaborate and communicate with each other more effectively, because before we had, tools like this, somebody who spoke English would send out, communication just in English, and then it would sort of alienate a whole segment of an organization or a whole team. And now it's like bridging that divide, but it's empowering people to do that without outsourcing to translators or sending it to somebody else who would, put sort of their own spin perhaps on the message. And it really helps people, stay in control of the message that they're trying to deliver, which I think is really great.
And a super under discussed area of inclusivity is around like neurodivergence. I think that I'm really excited to see what the industry kind of comes up with in terms of creating like tools that allow your neurodivergent employees to be able to maybe like deal with some of those executive function like tasks that are a struggle, things that are kind of difficult, whether it's like calendar planning or project planning, or like you said, starting an email. Like sometimes like the amount of energy that can go into to starting a hard email. Throw some details of what you're trying to communicate and the tone you're trying to. I'm trying to get this vibe across, but I need to make sure I include these specific details. Like, so that can be really overwhelming. And so, as an organization, you have an opportunity to be able to really take that like really seriously and be able to help employees that are maybe struggling with something that's part of their job, but it's certainly not like a shortcoming. And now you've got a tool that you can kind of help them help themselves without them being overwhelmed for no reason.
Yeah.
Even really. Go ahead, Alexandra.
Go ahead, Dan. No.
I was just passionate when I was hearing that, because I'm someone who has great skills and someone that has weaker skills as well.
All that way.
So AI. Well, I mean, I'm not very good at building things. If I had AI that could help me build stuff, that'd be great. But if you're not very good at communicating, or it's not your strong suit, that's when AI can really help you have a skeleton, and then from there you can build on it. Whereas if you're like, I don't know, dyslexic, or you don't really have like the gift of the gab, as they say, it can really help you.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that AI does, right? Is it takes away all of those, like, it reduces those like mundane tasks, and it really helps speed that up. We like to say when we're, talking about some of the stuff that technology can do specifically for recruiting, is using all of these tools effectively and AI specifically can really get sort of a junior recruiter working at a pace or at the level of somebody who's more senior, because they can leverage all of this learning that's already been done, and really, it can help speed up how they write, some candidate summaries, or how they do submissions, or, generate job descriptions, which for somebody who's doing that for the first few times, I can imagine looking at a blank screen, trying to write a like machine learning engineer job would be quite challenging the first few times. So this, now you're not writing it, you're just editing it to make sure that, what your client told you is really in that job description.
Well, let's talk a little bit about learning, because I think this is where it's so powerful. So we can now take the time that it used to take us to get a new recruiters new to our industry ramped up and smash that down into something that's really concise. So I'll give you a great example with a customer, and this is, we have our training on AI. If I'm not selling, I'm dying. We do have a course on AI for recruiting.
I'm sure it's a great course. Everyone go out and buy it.
Yeah, everybody go out and buy it. But one of those things is educating yourself on a new role. How many times in light industrial or high volume light industrial have you not known what a press punch is, or a CNC machinist, or what they do, or the questions you're supposed to ask? Or in healthcare, we had a role where we got a new endocrinology RN, and my recruiter was like, what endo what? And so, we put the prompt in, and it told us what an endocrinology RN does, how they're educated, the questions we should be asking, both behavioral and skills based.
Yep.
Then
and
you think about IT.
To those,
yeah.
right?
Yes. And then you think about IT and Boolean. Oh my gosh, I'd have to go watch Glenn Cathy's Boolean black belt for, a couple years to be good at Boolean. And you can put a prompt in, and it gives you this gorgeous Boolean string back. And I think that is the education portion of it, and reducing the time to effectiveness for sales and recruiting and agency. To me, it's like the ultimate efficiency. Right?
If I could have found out what a BizTalk developer was when I first started recruiting, it really would have saved me a lot of stress and a lot of phone calls.
Sure.
And we all are looking for ways to make our lives easier, right? And we're all busy, we've all got stuff going on. So rather than sitting on a problem for an hour and a half, now we have this co-pilot, this second brain that we can count on. And sometimes it spits it out better than what I could. I'm like, whoa. That's a great place for me to start. I look very impressive when I'm going to send this email.
I am very smart.
So let's talk a little bit about application. Like some of the most impactful ways you're seeing agencies leverage AI today, because I think we say eat it one bite at a time, but where are you seeing the most impact? At what part of the funnel? Top of the funnel, sourcing and attraction, screening, where in the funnel, both client and candidate, are we seeing the most movement?
Yeah, I could probably start this one off. We've put it in our workflow. Pre-submission, I would say, is where the biggest impact has been in our organization, but we're only at the very beginning. Sure. We're working toward a place where even post-placement, or at the beginning, before we even get the request, that we can really pepper AI. I like the verb pepper. I stole it from Alessandra, but really it means adding little bits in so that it's almost barely noticeable. You're like, okay, I'm a client. I know that I want to give a request to Procom. Where do I start? I don't have a job description. We're going to have an AI thing in there where they can put it in. Same with generating interview questions. Sometimes you're lacking creativity. And so AI can really help with that, where it's like, what can I ask this candidate about the biz tech analyst role, or whatever you said before?
It's no longer a template. That's what I think is 100%. What I think does such a disservice to the experts that you're talking to, is we're asking, we'll have a note template in there for the standard interview questions we're supposed to ask the same person that's actually a different person in a different vertical, but we're asking the same questions. I think right there you get immediate credibility with your candidate, because you can ask them poignant and specific interview questions.
Yeah. What we've done as well is we're not just writing, what should I ask a machine learning engineer for an interview? We're really looking at that job description, but then we can also feed in any of those intake notes that came with the job, and then looking at the candidate that we are going to interview and look at any notes that they might have about the candidate that can really help give even more specific and helpful interview questions that are based not only on the job title, but then all of these other things that will really help recruiters drill down to what's most important. And I think that's the thing that's so cool about AI, is that it's just helping you be better at your job more quickly, because somebody still has to have that conversation with the candidate. And so we're just Now, instead of, spending X amount of time trying to figure out how you're going to, get the most important information out of this candidate through, different questions, you can use AI to do it. And then you can, spend more time talking to your candidates, spend more time talking to your clients. You can focus on that stuff that AI can't do for you.
Right.
Yeah. Also, formatting CVs is another one that we've started using it for. I know at my previous job, we had a whole department that formatted CVs, and it would take ages, especially if you're submitting to governments. So it's very, very long. If you don't know what GorillaWorks is doing, go and have a look at their stuff, because we use it and it's very exciting. But you can really pepper it wherever you like throughout the process. Like even in prospecting, we've been experimenting with it recently, but the big push and the message should be, don't lose who you are. You still need to put who you are into the message that AI spits out. Exactly. So make sure it sounds like you. And even if you're doing a cold email, a lot of the time it sounds like someone else wrote it, but how would you say it? How would you introduce yourself to a new prospect? How would you like to present the candidate if you were in front of the client? That's what you have in mind when you're using AI.
And what about sales? Because we talked a lot about recruiting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Erin.
I was going to say one of my favorites is in like routing. Anything where there needs to be a decision made by a person, generally speaking, but it is something that you could suss out. And the ability to be able to kind of have something come into an inbox, like Staffing Engine, again, quite biased, but Staffing Engine has a super rad lead distribution tool. And the whole thing is like, how many people have an inbox where leads come in, whether they're candidate leads or sales leads, and they come in, and then some manager who's responsible maybe for multiple branches, or they're responsible for like, multiple divisions of a company, and they're sitting there having to go in and figure out, okay, like this kind of seems like it's for this person, and what person should it go to? But to have something come in and go, oh, I can, based on the information on this person's lead, I can tell you exactly where it's supposed to go and route it directly to the right people. Like those kinds of things, like are the really like the game changers. They're the things that can take you from being able to catch someone right when they applied for your job versus waiting 5 minutes, waiting a half an hour, waiting part of a day, and then routing them to somebody to be able to get a phone call. They may well be, on their way and not available anymore.
Right. Well, and then think about this from a sales perspective, because again, we do a lot of coaching on this. You used to have to buy tools when you're going into a new geography to find out top employers in the area, to find out what unemployment was, to find out where are some of the most popular hiring places. So, if you're going into a new geography from a sales perspective and you're looking for intel, it's an amazing way to go out and get, if you're using something like Bard that's real time, and get real time information. You can also use it to create those internal sell sheets on clients. So wouldn't it be great if in every client profile, your recruiter knew the top 3 reasons to work at that customer? Now we can better inform internally on, why this customer is so great. So on the sales side, it's such an amazing tool to help you walk into a meeting so much better prepared and informed in real time. I mean, you could sit on your phone right before your meeting and educate yourself about, where you're walking into, who their top competitors are, the different locations that they have. I mean, this is power at your fingertips to, again, have a more meaningful meeting. Maybe you're listening a little bit more and you're not asking some of the questions that you should already know. So I think, that's the idea, right?
I love the idea of like, if you find that great, like NPC candidate, like there's somebody you really want to market, the idea of being able to be like, current company, biggest competitors in this area that have great benefits packages is like something very specific that person is looking for. Like you just got yourself like a sales list without having to do any extra work.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yes. For free. And this is where
we love free stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's paid stuff and then there's free stuff.
There's paid stuff and there's free stuff.
You want to close doors, right? But open source is still free. And that's why I say, I think it's the great equalizer. Small agency, large agency alike can leverage these tools. The idea is you leverage them responsible. No PII, no customer information, right? And that's why I say you need to empower your people by educating them, because we certainly don't want all of your PII out into the open source world. That's where bad actors can get involved and make it painful. So this is where I want to ask, and we've said it a couple times, but let's talk a little bit in the application of AI, because here's what I don't want, even though I love technology and I think it's amazing. This industry, I love this industry because it's human, and like every sense of the word. Looking for a job is lonely and it is hard, and people that are looking for talent get frustrated. So there's so much emotion and humanity in our industry, which is, why I've stuck around for 26 plus years. Let's talk about how we leverage these tools to maintain that humanity. What are some ideas when we're leveraging tools like this, whether it's automation or AI, to maintain the humanity that's so important?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Good question.
I mean, we recently ran a workshop with our sales team, and I really think that we nailed it, where it's like, what would you like to receive? What would you like to read? What would make you feel like this is a real person talking to you? And if you're not sure, talk to a colleague, talk to your partner, talk to your kids and say, hey, what does this sound like to you? Because I think sometimes we just want to copy and paste, but you really do need those eyes on it and to say, does this sound like me? Does this sound like a human? And I think like
authenticity,
reading over it, right? Yes. Authenticity is key. The other thing I was going to Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, like, ask the hard questions when you're looking at AI tools. Like, ask, how do you make sure that this stays human? How are you going to support me in making sure that it doesn't sound like a computer talking to my candidates? I think, like, Lauren and Erin, actually all three of you know how much I love hard questions, because I think if you get the elephant out there, then it's going to equip you, and these are experts. Like, I'm thinking of staffing engine Matt. He's really great. He'll answer any of your questions. He gets a lot of shout outs today. I feel like
I know he does. He's paying for every one of them, guys.
But ask those hard questions, because they're the experts. They're building these tools. They're going to tell you how you can leverage it and not rely completely on a computer.
Yeah, so authenticity. So I hear that one. What else? What else can help us maintain humanity? It's the leading question.
Well, I think it's important to remember, all of these messages are going to another person, right? Like, sometimes, especially now, that a lot of us are working fully remotely, we're not even in offices with a lot of people on a regular basis. It's really easy to sort of get that connection is sort of missing sometimes. And so, having AI generate messages or generate, like submission notes and things like that, it's easy to sort of forget that there's a person on the other side of that's receiving it. So I think just, remembering that, we are all people in this, and that AI is really helping us with that connection. But again, it's important to add your own voice, your own sort of theme to those types of things that you're generating. One thing that we do is we've created various prompts, and they each include options for different tones, because we want to make sure that people aren't generating the same type of message all the time. So allowing them to select, this is the type of tone that I want to use today. This is the type of tone I want to use later. Things like that, just to help add a little bit more like connection and like Leanne said, like authenticity to the messages that they're sending.
Yes.
And combining it with automation can also like make sure no one likes to do the hard thing. Like no one wants to reject a candidate. But if you can combine like AI to write that hard email, even if to people who maybe didn't qualify in any way, they didn't even have an interview, there was no really like follow-up call maybe necessary, but you still want to have that human connection. Like to your point, Alistair, like that's a person, and they spent time applying to your job, and being able to use AI to be able to remind them that humans care about you too, in a way that like, it isn't that you don't want to bother to respond to them, it's that you care enough to respond to them that you're willing to figure out what you need to do to automate or generate an appropriate response to that.
The priority in 2024, when you look at the data, that's the number one thing is personalization. Number one. So 2024 is going to be about personalization, taking these tools, making sure that, like Leanne said, whomever is receiving it is feeling like it was meant for them. And like Alessandra said, that it's authentic, and then like Erin, understanding that the person on the other end is going to feel a certain way after they receive that message.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to work with AI to make sure that A, it's personalized, B, it's authentic to you and to your brand, and then always leaving somebody feeling better. And if they're, I'll give you an idea, because I used to do this a little more manually, but if they're not right for your agency, where might they be right? And giving them resources, giving them links to go and apply elsewhere or try something else. If they don't have an accreditation, where could they get said accreditation? If they don't have this, where could they get that? And so leveraging automation in a way where the person that's receiving it feels like, okay, it's a no, but it's not a hard no. I can go do this elsewhere. Mm-hmm. That's how you use technology to your advantage, and continue to have a meaningful, caring brand through the usage of technology. So with that, we have 5 more minutes, and I want to really talk. I know this went by like wildly fast. And if our watchers and attendees have questions, drop them in there now. And because I'll leave a couple seconds, minutes for that. But I want to know what agencies should be asking of AI vendors, because I think this is really, really important, because with 10,000 new products coming out in 1 month in the year, in November of 2023, that makes for a lot of overwhelmment on the part of the buyer. And so how do we suss out the products that aren't really AI? What questions do we need to be asking?
Yeah.
What are you doing with PII? What are you doing with PII?
What are you doing with my information?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's really hard. Like, I do a lot of demos, and I think it's really hard to know what type of questions to ask. I know it sounds cliche, but there really is no silly question. So even if you have a minute thought, like, go for it, just ask. But one thing I always ask is, where is this information living? Have you built your own, or are you relying on ChatGPT? And then if you are relying on ChatGPT, what guidelines have you got around there so that you're not giving everything to ChatGPT? So I think it's really important to understand the root cause. Like, where is this being hosted? Have they got their own? Is it public? What do they do with the PII? Like, we really want to protect our candidates as well as our contacts and leads. Like, you want to protect everything. I've dropped my LinkedIn before, but if anyone wants to reach out, I seriously do quite a lot of demos. So I'm really happy to walk through what kind of questions you might ask. And then, Alessandra, I think you do a lot of demos. What kind of questions do you receive?
I pretty much what you just outlined. People ask, what we do with PII, how do we protect candidates, because we offer a lot of tools for candidates, which are really heavily utilized, because a lot of stuff is geared towards the recruiter and the salesperson, and not everything is thought of from the candidate's perspective. And so we've built out some things that the candidate can load in their resume, compare it to the job they're applying to, and the AI will tell them what they can do outside of just fixing their resume, but what they can do to enhance their resume for this specific role, whether that's you're missing these accreditations, you should highlight on your resume more concrete, like quantitative examples of the projects you've led, things like that. And so because we do handle a lot of that information, that's some of the biggest questions that come up, and we are really transparent with the way that we do it. We parse and strip all PII out of resumes before using any external AI tool that we haven't trained and don't control ourselves, because we want to make sure that we don't have full control over where that data is housed. So we want to make sure we're not giving anything that could, point back to a candidate, to a lead, to, a person.
Love it.
And then I think what's in your roadmap, and do you need any beta testers? I think the opportunity
100%.
where are you heading? Because that can help you reduce duplicative technology, redundant technology, where don't buy two things if they're getting ready to cover it the next quarter.
Yeah.
And I think, and if it's something that you want to get in on the ground floor, identify if they are willing to have folks do beta testing too, and let your organization be able to have some real input into the product that you are purchasing.
That's a great thing.
And compare as well. Sorry, I was just going to say compare. Don't just like look at one and go, oh my God, this is amazing. Like
minimum 3.
My favorite phrase is like have a think. So like look at one, take it away, go, is there anything else out there that's doing something similar, and compare and ask the same questions and see what results you get.
Exactly. So before you make a decision, have a think.
Have a think. No, but it's really powerful because like we all get like shiny new tool syndrome, you know, you see something like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's going to be the magical tool that's going to generate $1 billion revenue for me. But you have to like take it away and analyze and ask your recruiting managers, ask your director of sales, ask your VPs and see what they think and invite them along to a demo. Like I'm sure that all of the vendors who are here today would do more than one demo if you ask them to. You don't have to just have one demo and then go, okay, I sign up.
Make a decision in one demo.
Right.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. You need to kick the tires a couple times. Well, ladies, this has been amazing.
So cool.
Yeah, this was so fun.
Thank you so much.
Female fire here. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for those that attended. And
thank you, everybody.
Use your power responsibly.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, 100%. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for joining.